thank you for joining us here today to talk about some bad bills that my colleague, Senator Dean Murray, and I just had in Crime Victims, Crime and Corrections. I'm Rob Rolison. I'm the ranking member of that committee, and I've been on that committee since I was elected to the legislature and started here in 2023. I don't think it's lost on most that the policies here in Albany really are not taking into account crime victims and survivors. And this is National Crime Victims Week. And we're going to have a resolution on the floor today talking about crime victims and how they continue to suffer. I've often said that being a crime victim is the loneliest place in the world. And unfortunately, I don't think my colleagues on the other side of the aisle really take that into effect when some of these pieces of legislation are put forward. Now, we've been dealing with a crisis in our correctional system. About 4,000 officers short. 2,000 were let go, and there were about 2,000 vacancies at that time. So what we've seen here, I think it's accelerated, is what I would call, it's like the race to release. Because I think some of my colleagues feel the less individuals that are inside our facilities, the less corrections officers that we need, and I think some just feel that most people shouldn't be incarcerated in the first place, and that's pretty sad when we want to try to bring a closure to individuals who are victims of crime. But I'm going to talk to you about a bill, S-342, and my colleague, Senator Murray, is going to talk about S-159. And what S-342 essentially does is combining good time and merit time and being able to vest that time. In other words, currently you don't vest it. You can earn it, but it's not vested. And it also, what it does is, I'll use an example, and I actually asked this question in the committee hearing and was told that it's correct. That so let's say that you've got 9 years of good time, 9 years of merit time, and in the 10th year, you do something bad. You assault another incarcerated individual, or you assault a corrections officer. That time stays. Currently, you would lose that good time. And what this does is it really disincentivizes good behavior, because we want people to be released when they can be released for especially nonviolent crimes and the heinous crimes that unfortunately many people commit in this state. But that kind of upends that. It makes it that it's still good, and you're good until you're bad, and then when you're bad, you're still good. To me, that really causes a safety issue within our facilities for the men and women that work in there. And now the 6,000 was a number we heard on the Senate floor of National Guard that are in our facilities, who we don't want in our facilities, but are going to be there for a period of time, maybe up to a year. And also, the other part of this, when I asked them questions of the chair and her staff, I have to say, respectfully, there were some questions that I asked that they were going to have to get back to me on. That certainly doesn't give me comfort when this bill, a bill of this magnitude, is being discussed. So when I hear about some of those answers, I'll get back to you. But there's another part of this, that shock incarceration is now eligible for anyone of any penal law violation who's doing time. That's currently not the law. And the other part is that eligibility for this merit time, good time combination really will be for anybody, even the most serious crimes. So what this bill will do will make our facilities less safe. It will put our corrections officer and civilian staff at risk, the National Guard members that are in the buildings at risk, the incarcerated individuals themselves at risk. And it will, again, as I wrap up here, I want to turn this over to Senator Murray. It's just going to make our facilities less safe and disincentivize the ability to stay in good behavior mode. and knowing that you can be good for 9 years, 6 years, 7 years, and then do something really bad, and it doesn't count against you. So I'm going to turn it over to Senator Murray.
Thank you, Rob. So let me apologize. I'm going to raise my voice, but it's not to drown out those chanting. It's because I'm angry. My colleague, Senator Rolison, is very good in keeping his composure. I appreciate that. Me, I might lose my temper a little bit, because the first question I asked in the committee of the chair was, do you even know that this week is National Crime Victims' Rights Week? She said, of course. Why? Because she's going to be reading a resolution on the floor. Well, I guess that makes it all good. The problem is this. In a week we're supposed to be sticking up for crime victims, they're introducing this garbage. They're introducing a bill that Rob just described that basically gives good time that can't be taken away. Even if you were to attack a prison guard, you can't lose it. Boy, there's an incentive to behave. This bill, Senator Salazar's, what it does is when you get someone that comes up for parole, they are automatically assumed to be released. We got to work backwards and basically prove why they shouldn't be released. That's absurd. Let me start with the very premise that we should be considering first and foremost what crime they committed. There's a guy that's up for parole this month that snuck up, the coward snuck up on a rookie police officer in 1988 and put 5 bullets in his head. The police officer didn't even see it coming. I guarantee the first bullet probably did the job. He emptied it. 5 bullets in his head. What kind of animal does that? What kind of animal would rape and murder a child? What kind of an animal, like Dante Taylor, that attacked, raped, beat, left for dead in the woods 21-year-old Sarah Good, my constituent, back in 2014? Her family, by the way, found her body about a week and a half later. What kind of person commits these crimes in the first place? Shouldn't that be the first thing we're considering, whether we let them out? Now I want to turn to some language where it says, and this is the language that was added, they're going to be assumed to be released unless the parole case record demonstrates there is a current and unreasonable risk the individual will violate the law. Unreasonable risk. What is a reasonable risk? That was the other question I asked the sponsor of the bill. Did you speak to any victims to ask them what a reasonable risk is? There is none. Any risk that they would reoffend should disqualify them. But I go back to the premise, we should start with the crime itself. But we should also give equal weight to the crime victims. What about them? Well, they address that. Oh, yay, right? They address that. They include in here. Section 5 says that we'll consider the crime victim statement. Section 6 says we're going to look at sentencing guidelines. And Section 7 says that we'll listen to the attorneys and the district attorneys and their recommendations. Sounds great, right? Oh, wait. Then they added language. The language says, in considering whether there's a current and unreasonable risk, the individual will violate the law if released, and such risk cannot be mitigated by parole supervision, the board shall not base their determination solely or primarily on any or all of the factors contained in clauses 5 through 7. So we'll listen to them so we can ignore them and move on with letting the criminals out. That is disgusting. Now, as I said, if I seem angry, that's because I spent my Sunday with Sarah Good's family and a lot of other family members, because I was it was a vigil for the parents and loved ones of murdered crime victims. I will guarantee, you know who I didn't see there? Not a single Democrat lawmaker. Not a single one. In fact, these were held all over the state, and I haven't heard a single person say they saw a single Democrat lawmaker at one of these events. If that doesn't show you everything you need to see, if that doesn't show you that there's a group on one side of the aisle that is all for the criminals, and then you've got this group right here that is all for law enforcement and all for crime victims. Thank you.
So I just want to follow up real quickly on what Senator Murray was talking about when we're talking about police officer Eddie Byrne. I was at his funeral as a 5-year cop at that point on a 26-year career, and that at the time was the largest NYPD funeral in history. And so we're going to have more to say about that for sure as this moves forward to the parole board. But what Senator Murray said and what I said today, two bad bills, not giving the priority to the crime victim or the survivor and pro-offender, and also not giving our correctional facilities the tools to keep those buildings safe. And that's why I'm proud to stand with the colleagues behind me who are about public safety first. That's the first priority of this government. Well, it's supposed to be, but it's not. And we're going to continue to fight for it. Thank you.
I'm curious about, so the governor is trying to, or she's holding the budget up over some criminal justice issues, actually, that I would think you guys would probably, I've heard the Senate leader say he's in favor of, and want to see some changes to discovery,
Sure.
Right, things like that. I'm just curious about, as it's ongoing into another week, what your thoughts are and what you would like to see done. Do you like what the governor's trying to do, or is it?
Well, I think the governor's right on this, and but I would also say that these changes aren't blowing up the discovery reforms. They are modest changes at best. And what concerns me is where there are folks that are saying, no way, we can't have this, is like, if that's your stance, then what else are we going to be able to do to make this state safe? This does not really in any way, in my estimation, hurt the defense ability of someone who's been charged. And the governor needs to stay firm on this, but there's a heck of a lot more that needs to be done when it relates to the reforms. We need to do more reforms to the reforms to make the state safer.
I will also say this. I find it interesting that it was this group that's meeting and holding up the budget that imposed these changes in the first place. They were the ones that made the changes to discovery to make it less safe. To now say that it's holding up the budget and maybe we should not do it because we're making modest changes. I've also heard, and I won't assign it to any name, but I heard there was a high-ranking leader in one of the houses who said, if any changes get made, it'll be the last. There will be no more. So yeah, should we make the changes? Absolutely, I support them, but I think there should be even more.
All right, thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thank you. Thanks for that question. Appreciate that. Yeah. Good job.